The old farmhouse stood on a rise overlooking a sweep of overgrown fields, its paint peeling like sunburnt skin, its windows dark and watchful. For 10-year-old Leo and his 14-year-old sister Mia, it was to be their new beginning. After a series of foster placements that had felt more like temporary holding cells, the prospect of a permanent home with their new adoptive mother, Miss Albright, was a fragile lifeline they clung to. Miss Albright herself was an enigma. A woman in her late 50s with an unnervingly placid smile and eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. She was kind, in a distant, almost scripted way. Her voice was soft, her movements deliberate. She'd chosen them because she understood what it was to be alone, and her large house had too many empty rooms. The house certainly was large and old, very old. The air inside was thick with the scent of dust, dried lavender, and something else. Something faintly metallic and sweet, like old pennies and wilting roses. Floors creaked with every step, no matter how carefully they trod. Doors had a habit of sighing shut on their own. "It's just settling," Miss Albright would say with that serene smile, her gaze lingering on a dark corner or a shadowy hallway a moment too long. Old houses have their own personalities, their own memories. Leo, more sensitive and imaginative than his pragmatic sister, felt it first. The watching. A persistent, prickling sensation on the back of his neck, as if unseen eyes followed his every move. He'd see things too, out of the corner of his eye. A flicker of movement in a darkened doorway, a shape in the periphery that would vanish when he turned to look. Mia tried to be the brave one, the protector. "It's just an old house, Leo," she'd whisper at night, when the unfamiliar sounds of the farmhouse seemed to amplify in the darkness of their shared attic bedroom. Drafts, mice maybe. But even Mia couldn't shake the oppressive atmosphere, the feeling that they were intruding, that they weren't entirely welcome, despite Miss Albright's pronouncements. Their new mother had rules, many rules. No going into the cellar. The west wing of the house was under renovation and strictly off limits. Certain antique music boxes were not to be touched. And they were to be in their beds, lights out, by 9 o'clock sharp, no exceptions. The way she emphasized no exceptions, her placid smile tightening just a fraction, sent a shiver down Mia's spine. The first truly unsettling incident involved Leo's favorite toy, a small hand-carved wooden soldier he'd had since he was a toddler. He'd left it on his bedside table. The next morning, it was gone. They searched everywhere. Ms. Albright simply shook her head, her expression unreadable. "Things have a way of getting lost in a house this size, dear," she said. A few days later, Mia found it. Not in their room or anywhere they'd searched. It was in the parlor, a room they rarely used. Its painted-on smile was wider. Its tiny wooden rifle was pointed directly at the doorway. And its eyes, its painted eyes, seemed to follow her. "Leo, did you do this?" Mia asked, her voice trembling slightly. Leo, pale and wide-eyed, shook his head vehemently. He wouldn't go near it. Then came the whispers. Faint at first, like the rustling of dry leaves, just on the edge of hearing. They seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, or from the empty spaces beneath the floorboards. Sometimes they sounded like hushed, sorrowful sighing. Other times like a child softly humming a lullaby Mia couldn't quite place. a tune that was both sweet and deeply unsettling. Miss Albright, when asked, would tilt her head and say she heard nothing but the wind. The West Wing became an object of fascination and dread for the children. Its door at the end of a long, dim hallway was always locked. But sometimes late at night, Mia would hear sounds from behind it. A faint rhythmic creaking, like a rocking chair, or the tinkling notes of a music box, one of the forbidden ones. And once a soft, mournful weeping that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. Leo started drawing. He'd always liked to sketch, but now his drawings became darker, more disturbing. Pictures of the house with too many windows that looked like eyes. Stick figures with elongated limbs and shadowy faces lurking in hallways. And always a recurring image of a tall, slender woman in a long, old-fashioned dress, her face obscured by shadow, but with hands that ended in long, sharp-looking fingers. "Who is that, Leo?" Mia asked, pointing to the figure. "She lives in the walls," Leo whispered, not looking up from his drawing. "She's sad, and she wants us to stay." Ms. Albright seemed to grow more possessive. Her kindness became more cloying, her smile more fixed. She'd watch them for long periods, her head tilted, an unreadable expression in her light-absorbing eyes. She discouraged them from making friends with the few children in the distant village, saying they were better off here, just us. She spoke often of how they were a forever family now. The word forever, in her soft, deliberate voice, began to sound less like a promise and more like a sentence. One afternoon, driven by a mixture of curiosity and a growing sense of unease, Mia found an old tarnished key hidden beneath a loose floorboard in her mother's sewing room. It didn't look like any other key in the house. On a hunch, she tried it on the door to the West Wing. It turned. The air that billowed out from the open door was cold, stagnant, and heavy with the cloying scent of decaying flowers and that same faint metallic sweetness. The wing was draped in dusty white sheets, like a forgotten wake. Furniture huddled under them like shrouded corpses. But in the center of the main room, uncovered, was a child's nursery. An antique crib, a rocking horse with a manic, frozen grin, and shelves filled with old porcelain dolls. Dolls with blank, staring eyes and unnervingly realistic smiles. And on a small table, an open music box, its silver mechanism gleaming faintly. As Mia stepped closer, it began to play, on its own, that same sweet, unsettling lullaby Leo hummed, the one she'd heard through the walls. Then she saw them. Tucked into the crib, arranged on the shelves amongst the dolls, were other small, hand-carved wooden toys. A little lamb with one button eye missing, a painted spinning top, and a wooden soldier identical to Leo's, but older, its paint more faded, its smile even wider and more malicious. A floorboard creaked behind her. Mia whirled around. Miss Albright stood in the doorway, her placid smile gone, replaced by an expression of cold, quiet fury. Her eyes seemed to blaze in the dim light. "I believe I told you, Mia," she said, her voice no longer soft, but with an edge like splintered ice, "that this wing was off limits." Before Mia could stammer an apology, Ms. Albright's gaze shifted past her into the nursery. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her face. Was it sorrow or something else? "They don't like to be disturbed," she said almost to herself. Then her eyes snapped back to Mia. "Go to your room, both of you, now." That night, the activity in the house intensified. The whispers were louder, more insistent. The creaking from the west wing was constant. Leo woke up screaming, claiming the tall, shadowy woman from his drawings had been standing over his bed, her long fingers reaching for him. Mia saw it too, just for a second. A fleeting, dark shape melting back into the shadows of the attic. They knew then, with a certainty that chilled them to the bone, that Miss Albright was not just their adoptive mother. She was a caretaker, a guardian, but not for them. She was a keeper of whatever resided in that house, in that forbidden wing. And the things that got lost, the toys that reappeared changed, they weren't lost. They were taken, offerings perhaps, or replacements. The house wanted them. The entities within its walls, the sad, whispering presences, the shadowy woman. They wanted new playmates, new additions to their collection. And Ms. Albright was there to ensure they got what they wanted. Forever. Leo and Mia huddled together in their bed, the door barricaded with a rickety chair. Sleep was impossible. Every creak, every sigh of the old house sounded like a footstep, a whisper, a hand reaching out from the darkness. They had to get out. But the nearest town was miles away. As dawn approached, painting the dusty attic window with a sickly gray light, Mia formulated a desperate plan. The alternative, staying in that house, becoming part of its collection, their smiles eventually as fixed and empty as those on the porcelain dolls, was unthinkable. The question was, would the house and its keeper let them go? Will Mia's desperate plan be enough to break free? Or are they destined to become the next cherished additions to a collection that spans generations?